I'm Kendall Ratliff. I believe that you can change your life by trying one thing at a time. You can learn more at my website, tryonething.co, or by tuning in to the Help NSFW podcast.
And I'm Johnny Fairplay, reality TV, survivor. And throughout my adventures, I've met a lot of interesting and motivating characters.
Johnny and I made this podcast because we want you to unlock your full fucking potential. So whether you want to get a little more badass or a lot more badass, strap in. Join us here each week. It's Help NSFW. Hi, I'm Kendall.
And I'm Johnny Fairplay. Welcome to Help NSFW, and very, very special guest this week. He's to me, one of the greatest survivors of all time. If you came here looking for a survivor podcast, go check Reality NSFW. This ain't that podcast. I also consider him one of my nearest and dearest friends, Lex Vandenberg. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Johnny and Kendall. I really appreciate you guys inviting me to do this. And I think it's, I just kudos to you guys for taking the time to host a podcast that actually is more than just about, running our jaws off about all the stuff that we've done on TV or whatnot, but actually helping people. I think this is super cool. And I feel honored that you guys would invite me to be part of it.
Well, we are really good fucking people. Thank you for acknowledging that out the gate.
This is Kendall's fault. This is so off-brand for me to be.
I love Johnny. You are pushing the envelope and really stretching your muscles in ways that they've never been stretched. I'm sure the result has been a lot of soreness on your end because this is
so sore.
This is yoga-esque.
I'm not even going to say that those muscles have atrophied in you. They just never existed until now.
They did. So Lex, I say we're not going to talk Survivor, and we're not.
Thank you.
Let's go back. Lex Vandenberg, prior to the television escapades that a lot of you may be familiar with, you were in a band, and take us Maids of Honor for those that like to look it up. Really awesome band. You might have heard them on a TV show here and there in the background, or maybe you bought their album. Maybe you caught them on tour. Possibly opening up for Red Hot Chili Peppers. You name it. They've toured with a lot of people. Name some of those, please. But how did you start your band? What led you to become a drummer?
Well, I've the life of a musician is something that was always, even as a kid, that was always the dream gig for me. Whereas some kids a lot of kids aspired to be firefighters and astronauts and whatnot. For me, it was always, I want to be a rock star. And so, in high school, I just, me and a bunch of friends, we took up instruments and decided, well, let's just do this. Which these days is really common. Like, my younger son is in a couple bands and he's already toured the country extensively. That kind of thing happens all the time now, but back then it wasn't as common. And so I eventually found my way to a band that was, we called ourselves the Frontier Fucking Wives. And that was, that band I was in that band for about 11 years. That was at that time, the band that I was going to try to kind of break big with and somehow form, a career that would eventually, take me and last a lifetime in music. We did pretty well. We had a number of releases. We played, just literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows, if not thousands of shows. We toured coast to coast several times, sometimes for 7-8 weeks at a stint. We had one tour that was, I think it was 45 days and 42 shows. Back then, we also used to tour extensively with a band called Dash Rip Rock out of New Orleans. They're actually still around, and they've been doing it full time. Well, now for probably about 40 years. But those days, Johnny, as you mentioned, we had, we were fortunate to be able to play with some of the greatest bands out of the 80s and 90s. I mean, like you said, we toured with the Chili Peppers. We played with the Butthole Surfers, Meat Puppets, Stray Cats, I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. So the Violent Femmes, we had a really large time. And, you know, for me, I was really fortunate at the time that I was doing a lot of touring, that I had at that point already met and was dating my wife, my now wife, Kelly. We've been together now, well, we've been married almost 30 years. We've been together, God, just about 35 years. And so back then, every time I hit the road for 6 or 7 weeks, all I needed to do was my wife and I, we lived together. She lived in this kind of big flop house that I lived in with a bunch of musicians. And when I left, she was my savior. She would take care of my dog. She'd pay my bills and take care of everything while I was away. And that worked out. I mean, it worked out swimmingly for a few years. But eventually, you know, as glamorous as the life of a traveling musician can be, the life of his lady, who has to stay home and deal with all of the real reality, there's nothing glamorous about it at all. And I know that she was getting more and more ready. And when I say ready, I mean, she was ready to kick my ass to the curb if I didn't put a ring on it pretty quick.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so, you know, to her credit, you know, she rattled me enough to bring me to my senses. That happened, and then of course, you know, the next logical step is we found ourselves pregnant. So that forced me in a position to have to kind of rethink all of my priorities, which, you know, obviously meant that being on the road for months out of the year was probably not the best, along with kind of the unhealthy lifestyle that naturally comes with being, you know, a traveling performing musician. So I ratcheted down my music schedule and turned it into more of a really fun and busy hobby, and then got a real job because I had kids on the way. And next thing you know, I had 2 kids. And so since that time, I mean, I've never stopped playing music. Music will always be, you know, I'm just to my core, the stuff that makes me most who I am is my creativity. And, you know, and the way that I express that is through music. So I've never actually not played music. The only time probably in my lifetime that I haven't has been this past year under pandemic lockdown, because it just hasn't been safe for me to play with other musicians. So I've been on a bit of a hiatus, which is about to change, thank God. But I'm actually now in 3 different bands. And Johnny, you mentioned one of them, Maids of Honor. If anyone's interested in checking that out, I think I don't know the link offhand, but we have a SoundCloud, and most all of the music we've ever released is up there for free download. So check that out, download it for free.
Show notes.
We're up on Spotify as well. And then I'm also, so that's kind of a rock and roll, kind of punk rock and roll band. One of the guys in the band that you guys may know is Greg Camp, who used to be in Smash Mouth. He's an old friend of mine back from, you know, the old school days. We grew up in the same neighborhood and whatnot. And he's the guy that wrote all the hits. He wrote All Star, he wrote Walking on the Sun, all that stuff. So he's one of the guys in the band. Then I'm also in an all instrumental surf band called Fascinating Creatures of the Deep. And we actually a couple years ago, about 1.5 years ago, we were lucky enough to be invited to tour Italy and play at the largest surf music festival in the world, which was just absolutely spectacular. The stage was set up, it was in Livorno, and the stage was literally set up outside, and my view from Drum Riser was the Mediterranean Sea as the sun set on the Mediterranean Sea. It was just mind blowing. And then the third band I'm in is kind of a fun San Francisco based kind of cover band, sort of super band called the Lawn Vultures, and a number of kind of renowned musicians in that band. Myself, I wouldn't count myself in that group. I'm lucky to be with these guys, but one of our guitarists, his name is Merv. He's played with Buckethead. He's played with Primus, and so, you know, I fly with the Eagles, and not the Vultures, but I feel like I'm flying with the Eagles in the Lawn Vultures. So, yeah,
That's
music
fantastic.
forever.
So you haven't had a chance to play all together in a year. What are your feelings about getting back together, getting all the bands back together?
I mean, it can't happen quick enough. For me, playing music, that's my therapy.
Right.
It's what keeps me happy. It's what keeps me sane. It's probably, that's a lot of my exercise. It's just, I get my cardio and whatnot, just playing drums several days a week, and just in the camaraderie of being with all my bandmates. All the bands I'm in are people that I've been super, super close friends with for many, many years. So that was, it's been, it's just added another kind of layer of sort of challenge to just, life under lockdown,
Mm.
simply because I haven't been able to, express myself creatively, or do the thing that makes me happiest. And, the thing is, it's, if you play guitar, or if, you play piano or a melodic instrument, it's, you can still, it's still quite a bit of fun to just play on your own, by yourself at home. But I've never really gotten very much joy in playing drums without other musicians. It's just not my thing. So I have literally, I put all of my drum gear. I broke it down, and I've not lifted a pair of sticks in a year and 3 months. So I cannot wait to get back to it. I'm chomping at the bit.
Is any part of you nervous?
Nah, I mean, I think, it's not, it's a lot like riding a bike. I mean, not to say I won't be rusty, but
Mhm.
I'm way more excited than I am nervous about it. And yeah, if any of my bands had a gig book next week, I might be a little bit more nervous. But we're setting ourselves up for success. We'll be gigging before you know it, but we'll have plenty of ramp time to get everything solid again.
I love that phrase, setting yourself up for success. Absolutely. What's your attitude towards fucking up? Like if you drop a stick in the middle of a set or if you mess up, how does that affect you? How do you roll on from it?
I mean, you act like you meant to do it, or
I do that a lot.
yeah,
That one's for the fans.
or if
That drumstick
or
there on
if
the floor.
right, or if the fuck up is so severe that there's no faking it, I think you got to laugh at yourself and just move on. It's all good. It's like, when we're playing music, it's not like we're saving babies' lives. We're not,
Mm.
we're not pulling people out of burning buildings. It's
Mhm.
if it's perfect, I mean, who wants to see a perfect show? When I go to see live entertainment and live music, I go to see the fuck ups. That's what makes those musicians human. If I want a perfect performance, I can just sit at home and save that 40 or 60 or $100, and I can listen to the records.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of seeing the live shows. You're gonna see these people that you've idolized, and that you've spent hundreds of hours listening to their craft, but you're going to see them as human beings. You're going to see them, sometimes fucking up, sometimes flipping the script and changing some things around. And you're gonna see everything, warts and all. And I think that's what makes it, uniquely beautiful.
Yeah, like Stone Temple Pilots is one of my favorite bands ever, and
Hmm.
and Scott Weiland and the DeLeo brothers, they publicly and privately feuded, and I got tickets to see them in Greensboro, and I was just hoping for just an onstage fight because they did that. And on more than one occasion, they would fight on stage.
A throwdown,
I
yes.
I saw a perfect concert. I was like, oh, as you said, I'm like, I got this shit at home. I don't like
Right.
this isn't what I paid to like, it like, everyone was happy. It sounded just like the CD. I was like, oh.
Why go out? Why pay
So,
for shitty beer in that?
and the Meat Puppets opened up.
Oh my God, yeah! What a great lineup that was.
Yeah, it's
We
really
used we
cool.
used to play with them. We played with them all the time. Every time they rolled through, town, San Francisco or San Jose, we were always the ones that they would, just tag onto the show, because we were a really good fit with them. We used to do the Dead Milkmen as well. Um, and But yeah, the Meat Puppets, God, they such legends, and I'm glad to see they're still around, because God knows there were a number of times where they should have crashed and burned. They were their own worst enemies.
Did you see Cracker with me at
Which one would that have been? Oh my God, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
The guy and the
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
our tickets
couldn't
from
prove it in court, but yes, I saw it.
we got our tickets from Lex's wife.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank her
those
for us.
yeah, those dudes are old friends of mine. Before they were Cracker, they were Camper Van Beethoven, or a few of the members were, David Lowery especially. And my old band, the Frontier Fucking Wise, we were playing with Camper back in the 80s. Again, they're the ones that actually hooked us up with all of our contacts when we booked our very first tour. Because back in the 80s, there was no internet. There was, if you wanted to, if as a band you wanted to book a tour, um, the process was just mind-numbingly difficult. You had to go to your local library. You had to
Fucking get
find
that card catalog.
you had to find all of the periodicals, the newspapers, especially like the music newspapers and whatnot, from each of the cities that you wanted to travel to. You had to look up and find an ad for the club or the bar. You wrote down the telephone number. You'd have to call that bar and tell them that you're planning a tour and you want them to book you. Then they would give you an address. You would have to send them a cassette in the mail, because they won't hire you unless they get to hear what you sound like. So you'd send them a cassette in the mail. You'd wait a few weeks. You'd have to book your tour 6 months ahead of time. And it would take literally months to book these tours. So instead of that, we were playing so much with Camper Van Beethoven that the boys in the band, we were friends. We got along great. We'd help each other when we'd be playing in each other's hometowns. And we told them, yeah, we want a tour. And they brought out like their Bible. They had spent the last few years literally taking notes, and it was like a phone book with all the clubs from coast to coast,
Oh, that's
every
so
state. It had the phone number of the club, the name of the person that booked at that club. And so we could just sit there and just say, yeah, Camper, referred us, and we're going to send you a cassette. And it cut our time down by weeks of research. So yeah, those guys, we still play with Cracker all the time. They're very good friends and very good dudes.
all of this stuff about the different bands that you're in and then the different bands that y'all have worked with, it just makes me think of interpersonal dynamics. It sounds like there's so many opportunities for miscommunication and blow ups.
It is
synergy, depending on how well people handle their shit.
That's the thing, you realize when you're in this, kind of extended, gigantic community of musicians, it is a community. It's like a giant tribe. And the ones that are, the good ones out there, and it's obvious who they are pretty quick. They help each other. And it's all about, the kind of the ethos of music, especially when you're an indie band and you're trying to eke out a living and you're trying to grow your audience base, is you've got to do, if you don't have a label that can take care of promoting you and booking you and all of the networking for you, it's the ethos of indie music has always been DIY. You got to do it your fucking self. And but that's where community comes in, because there's this wealth. If you're a good person and you're helpful in that community, there are thousands of other musicians that will help you as well. So everybody helps everybody else. It's a beautiful way to be.
The more people I meet in different fields, the deeper you go in your profession. It just feels like the world is so fucking small. So like really
Totally
watch yourself and don't burn bridges, because it doesn't matter if you're leaving a job in small town New England and going to Arizona, you're probably 2 degrees of separation away.
It's incredible. Just that simple life rule of just be kind. It's amazing the return on investment that you can get from being kind. And some people think, well, be kind, but that's not cool. How could you be cool and be kind? No, being kind is the coolest thing of all. And you could totally be cool and be kind. You can be dangerous and be kind. You can be, but the kindness should always be part of the fabric of who you are and how you relate with other human beings, because it will always come back. And if you're the opposite, if you're a dick or if you're an asshole, it will come back too. It'll come back in spades. So if you're kind, you're going to get the kindness in return. It always works that way. If you're a dick, the world will be a dick back at you.
You swing that dick out there, it's eventually gonna flop back at you.
You better swing it for good. Don't swing it for evil.
One of those detachable dicks. Better not be a boomerang.
Ugh.
But I can't prove that it's cool, but I don't know a single heterosexual female that's seeing a tough looking guy either be kind to like a child or a small animal. Oh my gosh, like Flood City. Women love that.
Flood City.
They love it so hard. Like,
no, you're right. You're right. But
women who don't want children, they see a man being cool with a kid, they're just like, oh, look at that fucking nurturer. God damn it.
And it's especially when it's the unexpected, when the guy looks like, he looks dangerous. All of a sudden, that's
Contrast.
where, it's all over. It's like a secret weapon.
It's so funny. Like when I first met Lex, I mean, like Lex's moniker was the punk rock dad, and and I saw him and I was just like, this is my kind of guy, like he might punch me in the face, but I like
it's fun though.
And I don't even remember if it was before or after I met. It might have been right after. Anyway, every single birthday from 2004 till now, the first phone call I get is from Lex Vandenberg.
Oh wow!
Every single birthday, and we actually, a few of the survivors, we made fun in a kind way. We're just like, what do you think? What do you think Lex's bedroom looks like? Do you think there's just like a beautiful mind with with all these strings, and just like Rob C's birthday is this, and so it was just so because like we would call other survivors just like, did Lex call you for your birthday? It's like, yes. And then the ones that he didn't, it's like, ooh, wow, you're on the naughty list.
Well, you're an asshole. Lex someone call you. There's the karma.
So, but now,
that's right.
Now Facebook's fucked up is over because you can just press a button. But it used to
everybody knows whose birthday is when now. It's no longer my my secret weapon no more.
Yeah.
You know what I think is a good secret weapon? Know people's parents' names.
Aha.
If I guess it's people younger than you know their kids' names, or if they don't have a partner, know their best friends' names. I don't know. If you know like whoever you care about, if you know 1 degree away from them, their special people's names, you can be like, how is Valerie?
Oh yeah. No, and just the what seems so simple, but to me has always been ridiculously hard, is just remembering people's names. Period.
Oh, that's
I've always had an issue with that, and people love to hear their own names. It makes them feel instantly like more connected to you. But when, oh my God, I have to practice names because I forget them as soon as they go in one ear and right out the other. So that's something I'm constantly kind of working on doing better.
Lex and I were talking a few months ago. So like we've led similar lives in that what reality television did for us post reality television with the fame. Like he was there and the hotness of Survivor and I caught the tail end still on the hot train, but but then like soon after, big dip. And we both got to do this tour of Australia, in which we did their version of Comic-Con, and he did it the year before me. And during a 3-day stretch, we had 80,000 people come through and were like, hi, I'm Billy. Hi, I'm Chuck. Hi, I'm Steven. Hi. And each one you're facially connecting, hearing, accepting this name, so much so that you're writing it on an 8x10 glossy and handing it back. Well, 80,000 people shoving that into your head. There's only so much like we're of the firm belief that it's pushing stuff out.
Yeah, no, I firmly believe that those years around Survivor, I had, and like Johnny, I had so many just kind of mind-blowing experiences. I met so many tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of people over a span of about a decade, to where there was still all this stuff going on, whether it be charity events or traveling on these like tours, like Johnny was mentioning, all the people that I've met. I feel like it actually, the sacrifice that we all made was we had such an influx of new experiences and new data that it naturally, it's like your brain is a hard drive. In my mind, I equate it with like a hard drive. There's only so many terabytes of space in there. And I feel like when I try to remember, like just to recall old memories, whether it be childhood or high school or college or a lot of that stuff, I have trouble now
Oh,
accessing because
wow.
I feel like all this other stuff, was just kind of bombarding my brain and my senses to where a lot of other stuff just got foggy. And some of it, as it was retained, I feel like my brain had to pitch stuff, like jettison stuff overboard to make room for the new stuff. So
Grandma's
it's just,
birthday. Bye.
yeah, it's a really weird, I'd be curious to know, because Johnny says he can totally relate to it. And I'm wondering how many other people kind of like us, Johnny, have had that same experience to where they can honestly say that they feel that some of their memories have been, if not erased, have been like put in some kind of basement somewhere where we can't just retrieve those memories. Maybe they'll
It's
come one day if there's trauma, maybe I'll remember. I don't know.
I feel like there's a lot of good stuff that we can't get to because of all that's just not in the cache.
Right.
That's so interesting. So short term, that makes me think like if I'm not managing my emotions and stuff well throughout the day, I'll have an early crash. But if I build like transition time between activities, time to just breathe and be quiet for a few minutes, like I can really get further in the day. But that's a short term thing, not a like multi-year thing. What y'all are talking about.
Yeah, it's frightening. It's sad. I mean, as I said, I've thought about it, and Lex has independently thought about it, and then we just happened to have this conversation, exchange notes, and I think we're both ready to cry together.
Well, it makes me wonder if psychedelics would do something. There's a lot of studies now on they're doing a lot of studying scientifically of psychedelics to see if it can be a better mode of treatment for people who've experienced trauma.
I'm all about that. Totally all about that. I just hope that the requirement for that to work is not that you haven't done them in the past, because I've not only broken the seal on that stuff,
you're just in a different test group.
I consider myself a bit of a professional cosmonaut, or what would you call it? A psychonaut myself.
Well, big Toms will prove this theory. Oh me. All right, so we discussed the band thing. You kind of took a back, moved the band to the peripheral because you did have a family, and
yes,
you have two wonderful boys, and I don't think I've ever met River. I've met Corbin multiple times at Big Tom's farm.
You've met River, but you probably met him when he was younger. I know that you definitely met him at the All-Star finale.
Okay,
because he was there. But back then he was, River, at that point, River couldn't have been older than like maybe 8.
Okay.
He's 27 now. So
yeah, and
Corbin's 29.
The partner vinyl is right there behind me.
Nice. Yes,
so.
that's my boy's band.
Yes. Sweet. So check out partner. Rolling Stone has a hard on for them right now, and that's
right.
Bad set of people to have a hard on for you.
Not a bad set of people to swing their dick at you.
Yeah,
that's right.
But let's talk about raising these two boys.
Yes.
Like going from the punk rock drummer guy to dad. It wasn't as easy as just becoming a dad.
Well, I mean, to be honest, the transition it did feel super easy. I felt like, I mean, it's, when before you have your first kid, it's terrifying to say the least. And I'll never forget when Corbin, my first son, was born, when my wife and I, when she left the hospital and I had that baby seat in the car, and the nurse handed me Corbin, and the door, I remember Kelly closing the door to the car, and then it was just the three of us in the car alone. And I was like, what the fuck are we going to do? We were both like terrified. And I'm like, he doesn't come with a user manual. Like, what do we do? We don't have nurses to say, hey, what do we do here? And it's just us. It felt terrifying for a hot minute, but Johnny, it all we're all hardwired biologically to do this. And all of a sudden I felt like, fuck, this is the job I was born to do. It felt, that doesn't mean it's easy. I mean, obviously, being a parent has, a lifetime of challenges that you either meet or or fail at. Hopefully you meet the challenges, but no, for me, there is nothing in my life has given me more joy or made me feel more like I'm doing everything that I was meant to do, more than being a parent. That's, I have that is they are, my two boys are my greatest masterpieces. They are the reason I think I was put on this earth, was to to have them and to help them to be the best human beings that they can be. And it was, but yeah, it did come with its set of challenges. Early on, it became apparent to us that my older son Corbin was not like all the other kids. And back then it was, well, this would have been 26 years ago. It's amazing how much progress has been made in the last couple, 3 decades in terms of what we all know about different conditions. And back then we didn't know what was going on. We just knew that he was exhibiting kind of signs that he wasn't like all the other kids in terms of how he interacted socially, how quickly or how slowly he was to begin speaking in sentences and using words. There were a number of little kind of clues, but we didn't know what it was. Yeah. And so we actually,
you wouldn't have much context.
We didn't. We had no context, but the only context we had was like some of our other friends had kids, and we'd see, and we used other kids as kind of examples or samples of what maybe we considered, in air quotes, normal to be. And at the time, we were dirt poor. My wife and I, we had very little money, but we saved everything we had, and we took our boy to be evaluated at Stanford, which was, one of the country's top, hospitals and universities. And they checked him out and ran extensive tests. We went back and forth for weeks, and their initial prognosis was that he was mentally retarded. And I was like, no, you guys may be the best minds in this country, but you're dead wrong on this. I know you're wrong. And at that time, to her credit, my wife, Kelly, she knew, we both knew that we were not going to find the help we needed in any kind of traditional way, because it became obvious that, well, science wasn't there yet. And a lot of people didn't know what was what. And so she took it on herself to read every single book that seemed to resonate. And she followed, like Sherlock Holmes, she followed a breadcrumb trail to try to kind of, take this black box and open it up and figure out, what was going on with our boy. And she eventually said, I think our boy is autistic. He's on the autism spectrum. And we went back to Stanford, and they said, yeah, you know what? You might be right. And here we are, my wife didn't even go to college, but she's smarter than all of those PhD, MD, all of these doctorates. She figured it out. And from that point on, since, we knew what we kind of were working with, we then tried, we dedicated ourselves. And this is where, to your point, Johnny, not everything in being a parent is easy. And that was definitely not easy. And there were some very, very, very tough and very dark years, because, as Corbin got older, when he was, when he started, when he became an adolescent and whatnot, he had some extremely difficult times with depression. There were times where, there were some years, especially right around Survivor, which has been the only thing that I might categorize as a mild regret of having done Survivor. But it was very, very tough for my boy Corbin, because it upended his whole reality and everything that he needed. People on the autistic spectrum, they crave routine, and they need to know like they need to know like what's happening today, tomorrow, next week, next month. And Survivor is it's the opposite of that. It's your world is thrown into complete and utter fucking anarchy for months or years. And he was suicidal for a while, and we had to have him on constant suicide watch. And these were things that were very difficult. But long story short, my wife and I, and especially my wife, because I was working and she was stay-at-home mom, she dedicated every bit of her heart and soul to making sure that all opportunities were open to Corbin, and that he could live his best life and be the best version of himself that he could be. And we learned pretty quickly that people call autistic people like people with special needs, or challenged, and you know what? It's not the case at all. I mean, in my mind, they're different, but I feel like they're enhanced, and they have superpowers that we don't have. Us normal people, there are things that they're capable of that we couldn't even aspire, to do. There was a time when my boy was, one of his obsessions was the Titanic, and there was a time where he could name, I think, how many passengers are on the Titanic? It's like 3,200 or something. He could name them all.
Right.
He could name every single one of those passengers. And we went to a Titanic exhibit once, and when you went through this exhibit, at the end of it, they would have on the wall, there was all the list of names, and it said who had survived and who was deceased. And when you went into this Titanic exhibit, you had your ticket was a unique ticket, and it had the name of one of the passengers on it. And at the end of the exhibit, you'd go to this wall and you'd see if you survived or if you died. And Corbin, who knew everybody by name, and knew who lived and who died, he positioned himself where these people were coming out, and he said, "Hey, can I see your card?" Oh, you're dead. See your card?
That's amazing.
and these people were like, "There's no way you could do that." And they'd go up to the wall and they'd say, "My God, that kid was right." And he just sat there. It was like a parlor trick, like a magic trick. And he was just like, "Yep, dead, alive, dead," because he knew all of them. I mean, these are things. Their minds, the mind of an autistic person is a miraculously wondrous thing, and that's why I've always felt like, and Corbin's also always said, I don't want to be fixed. I don't want to be cured. This is not a disease. I just want the world, to accept me for who I am, and to give me the opportunities that that we all deserve, right? I almost feel that that autism is. I've had this theory that there's certain things about autistic people that that some people may not know about, but this world that we now live in of technology is perfectly set up for autistic people. They are quick learners. They do not feel as comfortable face-to-face socially. The social interaction of kind of face-to-face touching and all that is typically is off-putting to them. Yeah. But email, text, social media, they were built for this. Yeah. And so I've always wondered if these, because there's also a theory that there are more and more autistic people. And some people believe it's because we didn't know how to diagnose autism before and they've always been around. Some people believe that there are actually more autistic people now than there were 50, 100 years ago. I almost feel like, how odd would it be if this onset of like increased autistic people, if it was just a preview into how we as a species are evolving? That somehow this group of people, they've learned how to unlock, they say that we only use 5 or 10% of our brain. I feel like they're using maybe 25% of their brain because they can do all these incredible things. Yeah. What if they are the next evolution in humankind?
Yeah. Wow.
I've heard stranger things, and I feel like, that maybe in 200 years, everyone will be what now we're looking at and saying, autism. I don't know.
How old is your son?
He's 29. He just turned 29 last month.
Okay. I like any theory that just shows people that we think don't fit into a box. Well, maybe in the future or maybe in the past, there were different boxes. I read a book about ADHD, which I have, and that's been a struggle in my life. And if you take what's wrong with having ADHD and you put it into a hunter-gatherer context, oh my gosh, someone who can hyper focus for hours,
Totally.
super helpful. They're going to find all the berries.
Yep.
And I think same thing with autism spectrum. Maybe in an earlier time in life when our day-to-day activities were really, really different, we would have had more of an understanding of what an asset someone with autism can be.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to look at it. And I mean, Johnny, there's one thing you and I know about it's not fitting in boxes. They never made boxes for us.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I think that's a good thing.
My oldest brother has autism as well, autism spectrum disorder. And so it's a really, I resonate with a lot of what you're saying, including the not always getting the best insight from medical professionals. You mentioned how hard it was for your family at different points. Do you have any recollection of people saying shitty things to you under the guise of being helpful or comforting?
Oh, I mean, all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
all the time for sure. And especially when it comes to, my son. People sometimes, it's amazing what people will say, and you can tell that they haven't really thought it through. And they've especially not thought about, whenever you're going to throw something profound at someone, I think you owe it to that person to think about, to instantly kind of flip the table and put yourself in their mind.
Yeah.
How will that sound? What, it's you can't, you can tell when people are just basically barfing something, essentially barfing something at a brick wall rather than, thinking first and thinking, hey, I'm saying this to a person, and this is a profound thing that I'm saying that, will certainly elicit an emotional response. And, and people that are kind of in a vacuum probably think it's going to be a good response, but don't even think about the fact that what they've said could be interpreted quite the opposite.
Yeah, I think whenever you're talking to someone who is going through something big that you've never been through, maybe just constantly say to yourself, it's not about me. Not about me.
And acknowledge, these days, especially this year, especially with all that's happened, well, pandemic lockdown, but all that happened since George Floyd's murder, and this, in my mind, an extremely important rise in the Black Lives Matter movement. Also, have to acknowledge, this is Pride Month, and there's an enormous, community of LGBTQ people out there, and it is so important for all of us, especially, I'm talking about myself right now as a cis white male. It's important for us to acknowledge that we don't know everything, and that we are quite possibly ignorant about, the experience of what it must be to be, a young Black person in America, or a trans person, or someone who's gay, or all of these different things. And that's just scratching the surface. There's also, we've talked about, autism. I've been a card-carrying feminist since I was a kid. For me, again, it's like, I cannot pretend to know what it's like to be a woman. I can do my best to learn and be a better person by educating myself, but I will never know all the things. And that's I think it's always a good place to start, especially when you're laying out, some pretty profound stuff on someone. It's like, really, you've got to first acknowledge that I'm not you, and I cannot pretend to know what it would be to walk in your shoes, but I'm going to try my damnedest, because that's where connection starts, and that's where kindness starts, and that's where the world would be such a better place if people just took that point of view more frequently.
And if you need a quick reference guide, listeners, I would say take the phrase, God never gives you more than you can handle, just just take that out of your vocabulary.
Yep.
Or, as soon as you feel yourself wanting to say that, why don't you pray to God that God give you what you think that other person is handling just fine? Or just like volunteer to help them for an hour a week and be in their home for a little bit, helping with whatever shit is difficult, and then see if you still feel like saying, "Oh, God never gives you more than you can handle."
Yeah, and
I just never
ask them, ask them to share their stories with you.
Yeah.
And listen, don't talk back, just listen.
Yeah. I would say for me, when I've been suffering, I've never been wanting the person listening to me to prove anything. I've really just wanted them to shut up and like let me get it out.
Yep.
Nod occasionally so I know I can keep talking. That's good enough.
It's very true with you.
Yeah.
I've learned that.
Yeah. I'm on a roll. Stop it.
Yep.
No add-ins.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We've been married for 8 years.
Very funny. That's why we go to Cracker concerts together. It's where we met. I love live music. It's not a chore to get me to go to a concert at all. Super into it.
So, Lex, you talked about being kind. You talked about welcoming. We do a call to action every episode, and we spoke peek behind the curtain. We spoke before we went on the air. Your call to action involves pet adoption because that's something that you're a huge believer in. Same with me. I'm not an animal person. Anyone that knows me knows this is no secret whatsoever. I have 2 ragdoll cats that I adopted. One's 5, one's 6. I just got them a few months ago. One lived in my walls of my house for 2 months instead of being an active member of my family. So, but now he's out. It's Snickers and Princess Elsa.
And you're an animal person now, Johnny. Don't lie.
If that were true, he'd scoop their poop himself. He has one of those robot pooper scoopers.
I do have a robot poop.
Very lazy.
Oh Lord, dude.
But every night, at least one of the 2 cats, if not both, walk me to my bed, and they jump up to give me a kiss goodnight, and then go and then play like very loudly for the next 2-3 hours. And then in the morning, I am woken up by a kiss by one of the 2, and then the other one is bobbing and weaving through my feet as it's. I did not ask for these. I got like I was hornswoggled, Lex. My mom,
you know what?
My mom goes, I'm adopted. Go ahead.
The universe knew that you needed, animals. I'm convinced that animals make us better people. They,
Absolutely.
They make us more affectionate. They make us, they show us by example what unconditional love is.
And excited about everything. Well,
yes, it's the universe knew that your quality of life was going to go up exponentially if you had critters. And I guarantee you that those 2 cats are just the gateway drugs to more animals in your future.
No.
I'll bet you $1 million right now, buddy. It's gonna happen.
You and I are $1 million challenges. Stop it. so no, I was tricked. My mom was like, I'm adopting these 2 cats. I'm like, great. And I was like, when are you picking them up? She's like, on Wednesday. And I was like, okay, and this is when I had the whole court thing going on. And so, my mind was just not there at all. And so anyway, so we picked them up, and she goes, well, you have both girls, I have split custody, and I had both girls at that time at my house. And she was like, well, let's just stop by your house. And I was like, okay. And it's moments after I'm in the house that this all clicks together. I'm like, motherfucker. So because the girls are just like Mimi, these are going to your house, and she goes, well, unless your dad wants to keep them here. I'm like,
I've been
because it's just waterworks. Dad, we gotta keep them.
You got flim-flammed big time.
They don't shed, so I don't know what he's crying about.
Yeah, they're ragdoll cats. They don't shed. So
you know what? Oh my God, just let it wash over you, and you're just gonna love them all more and more each day, each month.
They like me a lot.
Come on. Animals are.
What sucks is, I have a 4-year-old and a 13-year-old. You would think they got 2 cats. No, I did. How did that work out?
There's
Well,
a
yeah,
subreddit
but like,
about this, dads who did not want pets.
I bet.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up. That's the help I need.
I'm the guy that I've never known life without, well, dogs. I've had dogs since I was born. I think in my 58 years, there were 2 years I didn't have a dog, and that was during college. But I've had animals, and when I met my wife, she's a cat person, so she naturally brought her love of cats. And at one point, we had 3 of each. We had 3 dogs, 3 cats. We typically get larger dogs. Like we've had a couple of dogs that were 150 pounds and change. Right now, we've got 2 dogs and a cat. But I'm a huge fan, as you kind of alluded to, Johnny. I'm a huge fan of rescue animals. I throw a lot of side eye at people that get purebreds.
Same.
Matt Bischoff. I love you, Matt, but I throw side eye at breeders. I get salty with people that breed animals. My sister is a dog breeder, and we just don't talk about that around like Thanksgiving or a Christmas table, because it always results in shouting from me and tears from her. But here's the thing. There is there are millions and millions of dogs and cats that are being euthanized every year, because we have a long way to go, but we've got to start really becoming a society that's more aware of like the importance of spaying and neutering. But also, there are millions of animals that they want nothing more than to give their hearts and their souls to people, but maybe they're not a specific kind of breed. It's not their fault, but they have just as much heart and love to give as everyone else, but they are being systematically euthanized because there aren't enough homes or people to adopt them. And so,
what do you do about it?
Well, I would love if y'all have, something that you can share. If I know that everyone out there is generous of heart, but if you could help an organization, any organization, I would say I'd recommend you consider going to aspca.org, the American SPCA. They're a great place to start. Virtually your local area will have your own SPCA. If you want to help your SPCA, you can donate to them. You can go to the SPCA in your area and bring bags of dog and cat food, blankets, towels, beds, crates. That would help as well. A lot of them also welcome volunteers to walk their dogs. And if you're somebody that has a space in your home and heart for an animal, and you'll be a responsible owner, I totally encourage y'all to adopt a dog or a cat and a cat, and also check out all the other local rescue shelters, especially if I love a no-kill shelter, but some of these shelters have no choice, and they have to, they are kill shelters because they don't have the space or the resources. Those are the ones that especially need your help in adopting these animals. So that's my challenge to you is to do that. Help your local shelter. And God, I mean, the world. I think the world would be a much better place if everyone had dogs, had a dog or a cat. That makes you a better person. It just works that way.
And if you're like me and you live in an apartment that you can't have animals in, I found out recently our local cancer support association, they have volunteers who walk dogs for people going through chemo and radiation who can't get out and do that. And if you don't have a association like that near you, I bet if you just put it out there, word of mouth, like, hey, I would just love to walk someone's dog who can't do it themselves, I bet friends or someone in your network could find you someone.
Totally.
Yeah. Someone knows something.
Someone does. Someone always knows something.
Yeah. And people would love to have a part-time dog.
There's
a
definite opportunity there.
There's guys out there going,
Johnny, only Johnny would figure out a way to monetize the love of a pet. Now he's going to start his own pet rental.
It's getting a lot out for everybody.
Yeah.
Is this going to be Fair Play's pet rental service?
Well, if you want to walk Princess Elsa and Snickers, feel free, but I don't think they're going to like
it. They are a great way, though, to meet people. If you don't like having to introduce yourself, having a dog, man, people It does the work for you.
Absolutely. So,
I'll tell you what, for sure.
there we go.
Now, isn't there's another aspect of y'all's podcast where I throw out a challenge. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Give everyone a challenge called
Okay.
something they should do.
And this is a challenge so that everyone out there can kind of can experience something new and
Yeah.
enhance the quality of their own life, right?
Yes, just like this.
Okay.
Yes.
So my challenge to everyone out there who's listening is because music is so important in my life. There are squillions of phenomenal bands out there that y'all have never heard of. So my challenge to you is for the next week, listen to a new band that you've never heard of before or heard before, one new band every day for the next week. In a week, you'll have 7 new bands,
Yes.
and maybe 1 or 2 of those new bands might be your new favorite band. And if I'm not gonna prescribe what the genre should be, but I'm gonna double up on the challenge and say at least 1 or 2 of those bands. I challenge you to listen to a couple of indie bands that are not signed to major labels, that people haven't really heard of. You can find these bands in a million different ways. I mean, Google is your friend, so have at it. That's my challenge to you. Educate yourself on some new music.
I love it.
Amazing challenge.
Try Partner.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's easy. If you want to throw one of the new ones this week, Partner. You can find them on. I think they've got a Bandcamp. So just look up Partner Band in Bandcamp. And then the other one, if you want to check out my band, the Maids of Honor. You know what? I'm going to try right now. Bear with me, guys. I am going to Google to see if I can tell you. I can tell you what our SoundCloud is. Okay, so the Maids of Honor. If you go to SoundCloud.com / the Maids of Honor, you'll find all of our songs on there, and you can download all of them for free, and check some new stuff out. So there you go.
So that's 2 out of the 7. So you only have 5 left.
Yeah.
And don't feel obligated to check out my band or my boys' band, but that's a cheat. If you want a head start, that's a cheat.
There you go.
Cut down on decision fatigue. And doing new things is hard. So after you listen to a new song, like really congratulate yourself because new things are hard.
There you go.
All right.
It all goes back to how this all came together, Kendall. Yeah. You have a blog, trynewthings.co.
So close. Tryonething.co.
Dang it.
She's setting the bar. Her bar is realistic. Yours is like try all the new things.
No.
Well, Kendall's
I have a browser history, so I don't have to try to remember one thing.
That's true. Save out the hard drive in your mind. No, yes. I'm all about. Look, for me, new things is very high cost, so I try and keep it simple so that I can succeed. You get to set your own bar.
All right, tryonething.co.
Yeah. Go. So if you want my version of the challenge, it's listen to 1 new band this week. So there's a spectrum from Kendall's challenge to Lex's challenge. However you do it, tag one of us in it, and we'll be very, very happy for you. Yeah, trying new things is hard.
Tag us. Lex is at Waiting for Zombies on Instagram and at Lex Vandenberg on Twitter, and then Lex Vandenberg on Facebook. And so go do these things. Donate to your local or national SPCA or ASPCA.org and tag us. We will retweet and plug away. We love it.
I'll reply with emojis.
Oh, there you go.
I will too.
Great.
All right, well, there we go.
This is a binding contract.
Yes. So
speaking of legalese, we're not a doctor. We're not your doctor. This isn't medical advice. We're just a bunch of assholes with opinions. So take it as such.
There you go. And until next time.
Lex, he's kind.
Yes. Yes. Lex, thank you.
Thank you so much. This was
Thank you guys, Kendall, Johnny. Thank you so much. And everyone out there, love you all. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. It's a great time.
Rock on.
Awesome. Thank you. Click that subscribe button. Help NSFW.
Yep.
And check the links. helpnsfw.com, the audio version, and youtube.com/realitynsfw. There's a whole subsection for Help NSFW there. Go check out our previous podcast, rate us 5 stars, do all the kind, fun stuff you should do.
That's
And
right.
until next time, we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
That's
See ya.
Kendall. I'm Johnny. That's Lex.
Thanks. Bye.